And then the spectrum of severity is dependent upon is categorized as mild, moderate, and critical. Basically, 80 to 85% of the patients will have mild to moderate upper respiratory tract infection, and they may have symptoms for only 7 days, and they usually recover. So, majority of the patients, 75% to 80% of the patients, will only have mild symptoms and they will recover. But some patients, at least 15% of the patient, may have breathlessness. They have tachypnea, respiratory rate more than 25 to 30. We call them as having tachypnea, saturation staying less than 93%, and PF ratio less than 300, or lung infiltrates which are more than 50% of the lung involvement. We call these patients as having severe COVID-19 infection. And then only 5% of the patients may have critical COVID-19 infection, pneumonia. They will have all sorts of problems, like they will have respiratory failure, they will be in septic shock with multi-organ failure, and secondary bacterial infections are also seen in this patient. So it is this critical COVID-19 infection where the mortality is very, very high, which constitute to around 1 to 1.5%. As we see, the case fatality rate is 1.4, 1.5%. So it is because of these critical presentations of the COVID-19 infection, which is around 5%. The How do we assess the severity of the clinical infection? So the severity of infection will be assessed by presence of the symptoms also, and we categorize them as mild, moderate, severe, and critical. So whenever any patient comes to us, we suspect them, we ask them history, whether they have come in contact with any patient, they have symptoms like fever, cough, breathlessness, or any myalgia, or any loss of taste, or loss of GI symptoms, or extrapulmonary symptoms. On the basis of them, that we do register these patients, and registration is done with the Aadhaar number, and then we have this app which is used to assess. Okay, Setu app, Arogya Setu app, they are registered with that. And then we triage them on the basis of the presence of the clinical symptoms, which is mild, moderate, and severe. If the patient has mild illness, they will have fever, cough, malaise, rhinorrhea, sore throat, and they will not have any shortness of breath. So these are the patients where we investigate them with CBC, liver function test, and sugar. And then we also do chest X-ray for this patient. And then we also isolate them. Okay, these mildly infected patients should be isolated in the at home. But if those patients, who are staying with the family, they cannot be isolated at home. They may be, isolated in the quarantine centers. Or patients with borderline symptoms like mild to moderate kind of symptoms, they may be hospitalized and treated in the hospital with appropriate therapy. So those patients who have moderate symptoms, they will have worsening of the symptom. They will have high grade fever. They will have pneumonia, which is evident on the X-ray chest. Especially those patients who have comorbidities, like elderly patient age more than 60, so 65 years, any patient with the hypertension, cardiovascular diseases, and patients with the diabetes are especially susceptible for development of moderate COVID-19 infection. And then immunocompromised patients, cancer patients undergone chemotherapy and radiotherapy, or HIV, viral infections, and those patients are on immunosuppression. These are the patients who are likely to develop moderate infection. They should be hospitalized. They should have proper assessment with CBC, liver function test, sugar, urea, creatinine, everything. They should be investigated thoroughly. And the CT scan also should be done in this patient, moderate COVID-19 infection, to assess the severity of the infection. And then severe infection is seen in those patients with the comorbidities, and they have moderate symptoms. Okay, along with, they will have tachypnea, they will have respiratory distress, they will have shortness of breath, they may have altered sensorium, they may be confused, they may be drowsy, their blood pressure may be low, less than 90 systolic blood pressure, or diastolic blood pressure less than 60, should get hospitalized and should be admitted in the ICU. And critical patients are those who have persistence of the hypotension, and then altered mental status and multiple organ injury. Okay, along with the lungs, they have affection of the liver, kidney, or the heart. These are the patients who should get admitted in the ICU or high dependency unit and be treated appropriately. As we know that the disease progression goes from stage 1, stage 2 to stage 3. Stage 1 is an early infection where there is multiplication of the viral infection. This is the systemic inflammatory response phase, stage 1. Whereas the second phase is a proliferative phase, where the host inflammatory response is very, very important. The host inflammatory response will decide whether patient will have severe symptoms or not. Okay, those patients who have exaggerated inflammatory response, basically that is more responsible for the damage rather than just the viral multiplication. Because it is also seen that those patients who have exaggerated inflammatory response, they have more propensity to develop multiple organ injuries and organ damage. Those patients who have the inflammatory response is less, probably they may do well, but then these patients will have high viral replication and prolonged viremia, and probably later on they may also develop secondary bacterial infection. And third stage is a stage of hyperinflammation, where we see the cytokine storm. The inflammatory mediators like IL-6 and cytokines are released in large number, and that is responsible for presentation of ARDS, septic shock, cardiac failure. Okay, and that is how these patients will have elevated IL-6 level. They will have elevated D-dimer, ferritin, troponin, and NT-proBNP levels will be elevated. Whereas those patients with the stage 2, basically they may have abnormal chest imaging, but the hyperimmune response, cytokine storm, is a stage where these patients have high fatality. So the mainstay of the treatment for early phase is symptomatic treatment. Okay, staying at home and symptomatic treatment of fever and symptoms, cough and all, is more important. Remdesivir can be started in these patients who are mild to moderate patients, where remdesivir basically prevents the viral replication. The mRNA polymerization is prevented by remdesivir. And there are other drugs which we have used initially in the first wave, like chloroquine was used, which was responsible for underexpression of the AC receptors. And then hydroxychloroquine and convalescent plasma, have shown, have not shown much benefit. So that's why chloroquine has gone out of the market. But there are some centers where the convalescent plasma is still used. Okay, and their emphasis should be to reduce the immunosuppression. The steroids can be used, but with the less dose. With mild to moderate, mild infections, steroids are definitely not required. But yes, for moderate to severe infection, the steroids can be used. Even experimental drugs like immunomodulators like IL-6 inhibitors or JAK receptor inhibitors can also be used in this patient. So monitoring is the mainstay of the treatment. National early warning score is published by the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. These include 6 symptoms: respiratory rate, oxygen saturation, systolic blood pressure, pulse rate, level of consciousness, and temperature. These 6 parameters should be monitored continuously in this patient. And those patients who have new onset of confusion, disorientation, agitation, they should get admitted to the hospital. So if the score is more than 3 with this new symptom system, they should be hospitalized. They should not be kept at home. So that's why the standardized assessment of the acute illness gives us good assessment of the severity of COVID-19 infection. Those patients who come and admitted to the hospital with acute illnesses. So this pre-hospital assessment will be a good tool to track the patient's clinical condition. It also help the clinician to get alerted whether there is any deterioration in these symptoms, and can also help us to assess the clinical management of these patients. The clinical management may differ from patient to patient depending upon these symptoms. If the score is less than 3, probably these patients can be managed in the ward. But if the score is more than 3, these patients should be hospitalized in ICU or HDU, and they should have a continuous monitoring, which will prevent a lot of complications, and further progression of the disease can be controlled. Basic care is very, very important, that I would like to emphasize. And then when the patients have extension of these symptoms or worsening of these symptoms, these patients should be monitored closely and hospitalized and admitted in the ICU. So we should have a process and protocols to triage these patients, and effective communication with these patients who are affected by these symptoms should be monitored on telephonic conversation. So with these tele ICU consultation or tele consultation, it has helped us to track patient symptoms, and timely admission to the hospitals can be done. And then ambulances and hospital services can also be used, promptly. And this triaging will help us to prevent unnecessary admissions of those acute asymptomatic patients or mild infections, and we will be able to provide beds to those patients who have mild, moderate to severe infections. So triaging of the patients is very, very important, and for that this scoring system has helped us to really actually help us to guide whether these patients need hospitalization or ICU admissions or not. So for that, when the patient comes to the hospital, we should have a thorough assessment depending upon the history and presentation, clinical symptoms, laboratory parameters. This patient should be hospitalized. Okay, those patients with a moderate to severe infection should come to ward, or severe infection should get admitted in the ICU. And in the ICU, there should be a negative pressure room, because the virus, the viral aerosols can spread in the positive pressure rooms. So negative pressure rooms are very, very important. The entry and exit of these patients should be well maintained. Like, there should not be a cross infection or transmission. I mean, that is how we can control the affection of the healthcare workers like us. And then we have been able to control this very streamlined way, and that is how we have been able to control infection in our hospital as well. So as I've told you, if the respiratory rate and saturation is dropping, okay, that gives us an enough clue that this patient needs oxygen support. So all patients should not receive oxygen support. Any patient whose oxygen level is less than 94% and his respiratory rate is high, above 20 or so, 20 to 25, these are the patients who should receive oxygen. But those patients who are clinically stable, but their oxygen requirement, if we have to use oxygen judiciously, and we have oxygen shortage, even we can accept a saturation of 88 to 92%. But definitely those patients whose oxygen saturation is less than 88%, they should receive oxygen therapy, either with nasal prongs or mask or whatever means it may be, or advanced oxygen delivery devices can be used to provide oxygen to this patient. So any patient whose blood pressure is less than 90 systolic, and his consciousness is dropping and is persistently febrile with temperature of more than 38 degrees, these are the patients who need close monitoring. So that's why this new scoring has helped us to triage and use our resources well.